Hi everyone, Dr.Group here. Today I want to talk about one of the most common and harmful toxic heavy metals out there, mercury. So I'd like to go over a little bit of a history about mercury, the dangers of mercury, how to get mercury out of your body, where you're exposed to mercury, and what mercury can actually do to the environment and to your body. These days, the health dangers of mercury, they're pretty well known, but that wasn't always the case. There was a time, actually, when its liquid form and shiny color was too tempting to play with, and a lot of people would roll around in their hands and play with it. And in fact, depending on what your age is, you might even remember, like I do, playing with mercury in elementary school and even up through high school. I can remember when we used to just roll it around in our hands. The craziest example was the first emperor of China, who is said to have actually taken mercury pills with the hope of experiencing eternal life. Now, he's not with us anymore, obviously, and we know what happened to him. He ended up dying, of course. But obviously, times have changed, but just because we're now aware of the damaging effects of mercury, it doesn't mean its use has been discontinued. As a matter of fact, not even close. There's still a lot of ways we're exposed to mercury, and it can have a really damaging effect on our health. You might not be consciously handling mercury, but a lot of industrial processes have made it into basically an invisible toxin. It's a lot more common in the environment than you might think. For example, coal power plants, gold mining, latex paint, vinyl manufacturing, trash incinerators, batteries, light bulbs. All these things can contribute to large-scale mercury pollution. But it's not just industrial processes that expose us to mercury. When it gets into the environment, it can taint everything, including our food and water supply, soil that the food is grown in. One example, actually, that you might never guess is actually contaminating our kids, especially in the foods, is high fructose corn syrup. As a matter of fact, just a few years ago, research published in the Environmental Health Journal tested a number of samples of high fructose corn syrup and found that mercury contaminated over 50% of the samples that they tested. Now think about this. How many foods marketed specifically to you and children are loaded with high fructose corn syrup? A lot. And high fructose corn syrup by itself is a whole nother can of worms I could talk about all day, because most of it, the majority of it, is made from genetically modified corn. And high fructose corn syrup has been linked to obesity, type 2 diabetes, and a whole slew of other health conditions. So just know this though, no worthwhile food or healthy food contains high fructose corn syrup. And the fact that it contains mercury really makes it something you want to avoid. As long as we're talking about foods that contain mercury, I'll also say that you should be extremely cautious, even though it's hard to find out these days where your food is coming from. But a lot of the foods and the nutritional supplements, the herbs that come from China, are actually contaminated with high levels of mercury, arsenic, lead, and toxic compounds. Right now, China actually produces about 75% of the world's mercury. And there are a number of areas in China where the mercury pollution in the soil is hundreds of times above what's considered acceptable. And not to vilify China, because we don't have a perfect situation here in the United States either. Just a few years ago, researchers from Harvard found that there's almost 3 times as much mercury in the environment in the U.S. than what we previously thought. One of the biggest consequences of this is how mercury has totally contaminated seafood and become a big problem in our waterways, especially the Great Lakes area up north. Last year in Minnesota, state health officials reported that 1 in 10 infants had unsafe levels of mercury in their bodies, and 1 in 100 had mercury levels high enough to cause brain damage. Now that's pretty sad, really sad actually, that 1 in 100 babies had mercury levels high enough to cause brain damage, and nothing, our government and Environmental Protection Agency, who's supposed to be protecting us from all these toxic chemicals, are not doing anything about it. Even in Michigan, they found that people who consumed locally caught fish also had higher than average levels of mercury in their bodies. And what really makes me upset is the use of mercury in certain medical applications, specifically vaccines, flu shots, and even dentistry. You know, our medical system is going down the drain because the medical system doesn't focus on the root cause of disease. The medical system focuses on the symptoms of disease. And the medical system, through prescription medications, actually causes more toxicity in the body. But the fact that our medical system allows mercury is astonishing to me. Since the early 19th century, mercury amalgam fillings have been used to fill cavities, and if you've gotten a tooth filled, there's a pretty good chance you've got mercury in your head right now. According to the EPA, over 120,000 dental offices in the United States use fillings that contain mercury, and more than half are also knowingly dumping mercury-contaminated waste into the water system, down the drain, and it just goes right back into the public water, goes right back into the tap water, and it's just a revolving door because mercury is really hard to ever get rid of. Now that's a lot of mercury going down the drain and back contaminating the soil and the water supply and everything else. The good news is that the ship is beginning to turn. More people are becoming educated about it. More people are talking to their city council members, the legislatures, and it's come under fire. And you know, research is actually confirming the health problems related to mercury and mercury fillings. The thing is, though, mercury fillings are very unstable, and this has been proven, and they actually continually leak mercury into your bloodstream, and that affects many organs and your entire body in many different ways, and especially with children that are given mercury amalgam fillings. In 2012, there was research published in the Human and Experimental Toxicology Journal that found children who had mercury fillings also had increased levels of mercury in their body, and usually had some degree of kidney damage as well. And this really wasn't a new revelation. I found research from decades ago linking mercury amalgam fillings to elevated levels of mercury in the liver, kidneys, and brain, and those were just studies on those organs. Now we know mercury is contained in many other organs, endocrine systems, and can affect many different things within the body. Regardless, it's still common for amalgam fillings to be used, and dentists are putting them in children as young as 2. So before you or someone in your family gets another filling, find out what the dentist is going to use. If it's mercury, they also call it dental amalgam. They don't even use mercury. They just say dental amalgam. Ask if they have safer composite alternatives, or maybe even consider finding another dentist. I mean, actually, I would definitely find another dentist. If your dentist cannot give you a composite, non-mercury filling, find somebody else. Now, I've touched on just a few of the negative ways mercury can harm your health. Well, let's get more into exactly what mercury does to your body. First and foremost, we need to understand that our bodies do not need or want mercury in any amount. It's not a trace element like some of the other minerals out there where a little bit can be a good thing. Any amount of mercury is straight up poison that'll destroy your brain and your nervous system and create havoc on many different systems within your body. So when mercury gets in your body, it's quickly absorbed into your bloodstream and then it's distributed to your major organs. And that causes problems, real big problems, especially in your kidneys, liver, and your brain. And as a matter of fact, the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the CDC, the Center of Disease Control, have both issued numerous warnings about mercury causing brain damage, because the research has confirmed again and again and again that mercury destroys short and long-term memory, spatial reasoning, attention span. It's been linked to dementia. It's also been linked to Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and most recently over the last 15 years linked to autism. Everybody knows the incidence of autism has skyrocketed in the last couple decades, and there's a number of potential causes, but the one that keeps coming up the most is mercury. And one of the sources of mercury is vaccines. Pretty much all vaccines contain a mercury-based preservative known as thimerosal, and thimerosal's role in autism has been a hot subject and a debate for years. But aside from that, it's been found that women with mercury fillings in their teeth also have a higher risk of having a child with severe autism. Mercury is very rapidly absorbed, and nobody is more vulnerable to mercury than a developing baby. Mercury has even been found in amniotic fluid, placental tissue, and in the meconium of newborn babies. Now that tells you that it goes right through the placental barrier, that there's no protection. People want to know what's causing autism. You don't need to look too much further than mercury, or some other type of toxic chemicals or metals or combinations of those things. One example is actually right here in Texas. I'm in Houston, but unfortunately Texas is one of the top states for the amount of mercury released into the environment. That's why we pretty much have to do chemical and toxic metal cleanses on a regular basis. There's just no way around it. In 2006, the University of Texas Health Science Center found that more mercury in the environment meant more autistic and special education students. They actually did a study on that. The exact numbers were for every 1,000 pounds of mercury released into the environment, there was a 43% increase in special education services and a 61% increase in autism. That is huge. For every 1,000 pounds of mercury released, 61% increase in autism. And it doesn't stop there. Mercury is damaging to the thyroid and can mess with your hormones. It especially interacts with your sex hormones and can completely throw you off balance. It's bad for your kidneys. It's been linked to certain types of cancer as well. And women who are pregnant or nursing need to be especially cautious, because if they're exposed to mercury, it can contaminate their breast milk. There's really nothing good I can tell you about the effect that mercury has on your health, but I can tell you that there are some solutions, because there's always a solution for every situation. First, you have to be aware of where this mercury is coming from, and then of course try to eliminate that as much as possible from your environment. First of all, if you're consuming a lot of seafood, most likely you're going to have mercury toxicity. The bigger the fish, the higher the level of mercury. Swordfish, extremely high levels of mercury. Mackerel, tuna, if you eat sushi, raw tuna, you're probably going to have high levels of mercury. The rule of thumb is the bigger the fish, the more mercury. So try to get, if you are eating seafood, try to cut back. but eat the smallest fish that you can. Number 2, avoid vaccinations and flu shots at all costs. All these contain mercury, and not only mercury, they contain a slew of other harmful chemicals, preservatives, and toxins. I know a lot of people opt out of vaccinations and flu shots entirely. That's great. I personally think that's the route to go, but if you do take part, make sure you do your research and understand the risks. Usually the people that don't understand and haven't done the research on flu shots and vaccines are the ones that are, trying to say that they're good. But it doesn't take more than an hour of research to look up the ingredients in any flu shot and any vaccination, and you can easily determine for yourself that these are not things that are intended to go inside the body. Third, if you have mercury fillings in your teeth, you have to find a natural dentist who's experienced at safe removal and replacement. It can be a tricky process. It can even be fairly expensive, but it's something that I highly recommend that you do. They're usually called biological dentists, and they know how to safely remove the mercury from your mouth and replace them with non-toxic composite fillings. Third, if you live in an area, and you can find out from your state if the water or soil is contaminated with high levels of mercury, you're going to really have to be careful with any locally grown or produced food. And another big thing is you want to always, and this goes for anything, not only mercury, drink purified water. Always drink purified water. Never drink tap water. As far as detoxing mercury from your body, there are a few natural approaches that people use. As far as herbs are concerned, cilantro is a great herb for toxic metal cleansing. Zeolites can help your body bond and get rid of toxic chemicals. Alfalfa leaf, stinging nettles is another herb that's really good to help with the cleansing of chemicals and heavy metals. I actually put together an effective chemical and toxic metal cleanse program with a product called Zeotrex, which uses a combination of herbs and other compounds. That you can check that out on the website. You can also look at all the reviews from people that have actually used it. We've gotten a lot of great feedback, and we've helped a lot of people. You can also go to a natural health practitioner in your area, a doctor that maybe does chelation therapy. There's a few different types of things they can use. It's called EDTA, also DMPS, DMSA. Those are some chelating. Also R-alpha lipoic acid, glutathione, N-acetylcysteine. These doctors can actually produce an IV, and if you're wanting to do some chelation and get some of the metals out of your system, that's also another option. Also, if you haven't done other cleansing methods like real good oxygen intestinal cleansing, liver and gallbladder cleansing, kidney cleansing, parasite cleansing, or if you haven't ever done a chemical and heavy metal cleanse, I suggest that you look online or go to our website at globalhealingcenter.com, or even check out the 9-step body cleanse program that we put together that incorporates all of these cleansing programs into one proven system that I developed over a period of 20 years. Unfortunately, we live in a society right now which is contaminated with multiple chemicals and toxic metals in the food, air, water, everywhere we turn. So we have to take responsibility and make sure that we're cleaning not only the inside of our bodies, but our environment that we live, our homes and our offices and other places that we might be exposed to toxic compounds. There is another DVD that I highly recommend if you want to learn more about mercury. There's a documentary called Mercury Undercover. It's really an eye-opening look at the truth about mercury, how the people and agencies that are supposed to protect us have actually put profit ahead of public safety. So I highly recommend that if you want more information, to check out Mercury Undercover. Other than that, thanks for watching this video. If you want to get more information about healthy living, daily updates about health, herbs, detoxification, cleansing, general tips about and natural remedies, be sure to like us on Facebook. Go to our YouTube channel, Global Healing Center, or visit us on our website and look for our blog on globalhealingcenter.com. If Mercury has affected your life, I would love to hear from you. Drop me a line, leave me a comment, and let me know what you've done to regain your health. I'd love to hear from you. Other than that, take care and have a wonderful day.